Time to Talk Tuesday, where your local realtor, Antonio Newton, discusses the local market and common issues, providing quick solutions, creative ideas, as well as tips for investors, home buyers, and homeowners.
Hi, my name is Antonio Newton, your local realtor with the Newton Group at Coldwell Banker. I'd like to extend you a warm welcome and thank you so much for tuning in today's episode of Time to Talk Tuesday. Today's episode, we're talking about questions to ask your real estate agent. As a real estate agent, I feel it's so important that you have a great mesh and a great connection with the client that you're working with. So for you as a client, I think it's important that you have some questions to ask to make sure the agent that you're working with is a good fit. Because you want it to be a smooth connection and good communication, so the process will be a lot more seamless and smoother for you. Because remember, you are the most important part of this equation, and it's important that you be comfortable with the agent that you choose, whether they're a new agent or an old agent, or not old but experienced, or they're a single agent or on a team. It's important that you are comfortable with the agent that's representing you in one of the most important decisions that you will make. So before we get into today's episode and talk about questions to ask your agent, I'd like to thank my sponsors, NortheastColumbiaHomeshow.com, as well as Better Way Properties, for sponsoring today's episode of Time to Talk Tuesday. Thank you so much for your sponsorship. I also like to take this time to let you know that you can connect with us on our YouTube channel, which is Antonio Newton Realtor. That'll host all of our video content. We have over 80 videos on there. All of our Time to Talk Tuesdays episode, our After Coffee series, which is our interview series. And stay tuned because we're going to ramp up our interviews. We've been getting a lot of good feedback from that, so we're going to be doing a lot more of that, as well as our monthly market stats, our home of the day, and other Facebook Live video content that's on our YouTube channel. And then, of course, you can connect with us on Facebook. Antonio Newton Realtor is the business page where we post articles dealing with the marketplace and what's going on. So comment, give us feedback. If you know anybody who could benefit from the articles or from the videos, please share or tag them in it. And don't forget to subscribe and make sure you hit that bell so that way you get notified of all our video content whenever we post it. So let's jump into today's episode. Questions to ask your real estate agent. Well, one of the first questions you want to ask is, how long you been an agent? There's not a right or wrong answer. And remember, when selecting an agent, it's really about the connection as well as about the communication that you guys are going to have. And these questions are so that way the expectations are set for both of you. So new agents have some benefits in terms of they may not have a lot of clients, so you may get all of their attention, so they're going to be highly dedicated to you. And just because they do, they still have other agents in their office, as well as a broker that they can reach out to if they're not the broker. But they may have their own company. But you want to know how long they've been in the business, because that's going to give you a range of their experience. And then in terms of that, you also want to know how many homes they sell a year. Somebody could be in the business for 10 years and only sell 2 homes a year. Or somebody could be in the business for 3 years and they may have sold 100 homes. So you have to decide which one you feel better with, the one who's been in the business for 10 years and only sold 20 homes, or someone who's been in the business for 3 years and sold 60. And not that that's the case, but it's just important to know the level of experience. You also want to know, are they a full or part-time agent? Are they going to be dedicated to you, or is their time split between this and some other job? Or if they're a full-time agent, do they have a part-time job? Or do they have a full-time job and a part-time agent? Or is this all that they do? They're full-time and a part-time agent, kind of like me, I work a full-time here and then I'm working part-time at the house, still answering calls and taking emails and everything. So you want to find that out. You also want to ask if they work with both buyers and sellers. It's not uncommon to have a buyer specialist or a listing specialist, and there can be benefits to having one or the other, but there can also be benefits to working both sides, because then you can really understand the transaction from both points of view. And so as a buyer, you can help them understand the seller's point of view to help continue to negotiate and work that deal out, or vice versa. But if you're just a buyer specialist and you don't deal much with the listing side, it may be hard for you to understand the other point of view. And at the end of the day, we're trying to get everybody to come together. So once again, questions to ask, you figure out what's important to you and what their answers are. And sometimes it's not necessarily the question that's most important, but it's the answer that the real estate agent gives. How long do you usually work with buyers? You know, there's a lot of Facebook groups that has agents from all over the country, and you'll be surprised some of the things that we see. You know, some buyers agents, whether it's, I don't know if it's true or not, because can't believe everything you read on the internet, but they cut buyers off after 3 months. Well, it's good to know that going in. If that's the kind of agent that they are and that's their business model, that hey, if you haven't found a house in 3 months, then you're not going to be working with me no more. I'm going to either transfer you to somebody else on my team if they have a team, or I'm going to refer you out to another agent. They can do that, and you can accept that, but you just want to know that going in. You don't want to find out 3 months in, oh, I hadn't bought a house in time, and now you're working with someone else. And once again, that connection is so important because, you know, not only are we helping you through the process, but it's a very personal process. You know, whether you're buying or selling, it's very emotional. There's a lot of emotions involved in that. They got to get all up in your business in terms of your finances, so you want to make sure it's someone you trust and someone you can relate to. Then ask them to see their real estate license. Since I'm bringing it up, I do have mine here at the office, but you have to keep your license on you at all times. So here's my pocket card, my real estate license. Make sure you can see that. So it has my first name, which is Nicholas A. Newton. It has the office that I work for, which is Coldwell Banker. It has my license number, 78940. It has our office code, and then it has when it expires. Well, it expires this year. So every year there's continuing education and things that you have to do to get your license renewed. So I have to do that by June 30th of this year, or else my license will be suspended. And we have to renew that every 2 years. Ask them if they have references that you can call. You know, there's going to be probably some reviews on Zillow, which is good. But if you want to take it a step further, ask if they can speak with the buyer or seller that you represented. So that way you can ask them how that experience was. You want to ask them if they're used to working with buyers in your area as well as in your price point. You know, it's important that they're familiar with the marketplace and what's going on. Because the marketplace can be different in Lexington versus Columbia versus Northeast versus Southeast versus Shandon. You know, and even in specific neighborhoods. And then it can also be different at different price points. So, you know, anything under $200,000 or anything above $700,000, you know, those are going to be different price points. So you want to find out their experience, not only working in the area, but working in the price point that you're looking in or selling in. You want to ask if they are an individual on a team. If they're on a team, you want to know who's going to be the main contact. Is it still going to be that person, or will it be someone else? If it's the individual, find out what's the best way to reach them. Is it text? Is it email? Is it phone call? It's so important that you communicate with your agent consistently, so that way you make sure you get notified that all your needs are getting met throughout the process. And oftentimes things may be on a deadline, so you guys want to be able to communicate frequently and often. You want to ask them, do you have a list of resources? Do you have a mortgage broker you can recommend? Do you have perhaps a painter? Do you have a home inspector? Do you have an attorney? You know, there's a lot of people involved with the process, but then even, let's say you find a home that needs some carpet or some painting or what have you. Do they have resources that they can recommend to you to get this done? You know, and if not, can they get some? You know, I don't have resources for everything, but I have an office with over 80 agents. So if I don't have it, I can certainly reach out to one of my colleagues and say, hey, who have you used for this? Who have you used for that? And then maybe be able to provide some resources for them of someone that's obviously done a good job for a colleague of mine, or else they wouldn't recommend them. And then you want to know, how does commission work? You know, there's a lot of things that's going on with commissions, so how do they work? Is the buyer paying it? Is the seller paying it? What if it's a FSBO? What if it's a new construction? What if it's an off-market property? You know, because with this being such a competitive market right now, there's a lot more going in to find off-market properties as well as FSBOs. So how does commission work, and make sure that expectation is set moving forward? And if there's any variations depending on the property, that you're aware of that and that everything is prepared before an offer is made. And then how do you help buyers compete in this market? This may be one of the most important questions, since right now we're in a hyper-aggressive market. We're in a hyper-aggressive seller's market. So you want to know, how do they help people compete? And then can they explain the process from beginning to end? As a home buyer or a home seller, it's important that you know the steps. So the more information they can provide and up front, the better you understand, then the better you can make decisions for you and your family. So these are just some questions. Of course, there could be other questions that you think of, but these are just some questions that I would highly encourage you, whether buying or selling a home, to ask your agent. And then, of course, depending on which situation, whether you're buying or selling, there may be more in-depth questions to ask in terms of marketing if you're selling, or how to make your offer stand out if you're buying. But it's important that you ask your agent these questions, because once again, that relationship is an integral part of the home buying or selling process. And you want to make sure you're working with someone you trust, someone who understands you, and someone who is going to represent your best interests in all situations. So if you have any questions that you want answered that wasn't answered in today's episode, but we can do an episode for any question that you want answered. Once again, this is your show. This is for the public. This is to give you the information you need from a local realtor here on the ground that's working in this marketplace. So feel free to reach out to us at our contact information over here. You can reach us by cell, either call or text, or shoot us an email, and we'll do a specific Time to Talk Tuesday based on your subject matter. If not, then please continue to tune in, and I look forward to catching you next week on Time to Talk Tuesday. And as always, I'm Antonio Newton, your local realtor with the Newton Group at Coldwell Banker. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next week.
This episode of Time to Talk Tuesday was brought to you by the Newton Group at Coldwell Banker, where nothing works until we do. Look for our episodes every Tuesday, where Antonio Newton discusses the local market and common issues while providing quick solutions, creative ideas, as well as tips for investors, home buyers, and homeowners. If you'd like to reach out to us, we can be reached online and on land at area code 803-608-2597. So until next time, here's wishing you all fair winds, following seas, and gentle tides.